executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Buonantony, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Training camps are officially underway for all 32 teams across the NFL. Players holding in, holding out, and hitting the podium. Lots to discuss on this Wednesday edition of the Lombardi Line, presented by DraftKings. Alongside Michael Lombardi, Stormy Buonantony with you. A great hour ahead as we welcome in our DraftKings Network audience. And this time of year is so fun. We talked about it earlier. We're finally getting into the routine of football. Today is the start, Michael. And I just want to hear from you as somebody who's been in the league for as many years as you were training camp. Do you have any good stories that come to mind about this time of year? Or maybe it is a player that was holding out or making it hard on you. What comes to mind for you?
I think one of the things that comes to mind, we were in training camp up in Napa Valley, which is tough to take, right? I mean, you're at the Marriott Napa Valley for the Raiders, and we were able to sign Sam Adams as a free agent. And I can remember that moment specifically because he was such a good player. If you remember Sam Adams, who played in Buffalo, when he wanted to go, he was dominating. And I thought to myself, we really have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. We're good enough now by adding this piece to our defensive front. We can go to the Super Bowl. And, we start the season off 4-0. We lose the next 4 games. We go into Denver on a Monday night. We win that game. And the next thing you know, we go to the Super Bowl. We lose to Tampa. But still, those are the kind of things that you remember about camp, besides the injuries, that you worry about, or the surprises of players that you see and say to yourself, wow, that guy's really good.
Michael, that's interesting that at training camp, there was one player that you really felt was the missing piece and that you guys were going to be a different type of team. Is that something that often you felt in training camp, that this could be a good year if everybody stays healthy? This could be a special season. Or was that something that you recognized more over time throughout the course of a year?
I think you recognize it over time. When I first went to the Patriots in 2014, I didn't get the sense we were a dominating team at that point. Our defense was atrocious. We were struggling to find defensive players. And in the beginning of the season, we started 2-2, lost the opener in Miami. So I think what you go to camp is you say, okay, where are we? What can we fix? And that was the beautiful thing about Belichick, was he was constantly trying to improve the roster. He wasn't sitting there. One of the diseases of a lot of teams that are going to occur now is we're going to hear how good a team is and how they're going to have a hard time cutting the team and how many players they have that could be players and how many draft picks are so good. It's all just a bunch of nonsense, right? You really don't know until you play against another team and you get to see your players. But once you start to play a preseason and you have an idea about your team and about some of the guys, you can then start filling in the pieces about where you are as a team, and you can say, okay, we got a really good chance. Like in 2015, after we won the Super Bowl, I thought we were a much better team in 2015 than we were in 2014. We didn't have any corners in 2015. That was the issue.
Yeah, so obviously, like you said, it's something that is over time. But in training camp, I do think it's interesting that you can start to pick up on some of those little nuances and players and pieces that are important. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, too, coming up in 15 minutes. Another former NFL GM, Randy Mueller, is going to join us here on the program. Maybe get one of his favorite training camp memories as well. But let's look at some of the players that are on the field and are not right now in training camp with everything underway. 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk is on site, but not in uniform for camp, so he's holding in. Won't include any on-field work or individual drills. Meanwhile, Cowboys star wide receiver CeeDee Lamb is not out in California with the rest of the team. How challenging is it when one of your skill position stars isn't out there with everybody else this time of year?
Well, the hold-in to me is a bigger issue than the hold-out.
Why is that?
It to me, in the 49, well, because he's a distraction. Because how many times have you said the name Brandon Ayuk in the last 3 weeks? I mean, think about it.
Yeah, too many.
I mean, it's become nauseating. It's ridiculous. It's way too many. And so when he's holding in, everybody's, is he coming? Is he coming? Is he going to practice? What's he doing? Is anything going on? And the reality of it is you're doing him a favor by letting him hold in. I wouldn't do that. I would not allow that. If you don't want to come and you don't want to participate towards your contract, then stay out of here. Stay away. Stay away. I would rather not have to take the, find the player that have to deal with the distractions of being there, and everybody's focused on what's happening with you as opposed to what's happening with our team.
And Michael,
I think it's wrong. So, and I think CeeDee Lamb is stupid for holding out, but at least he's not in camp creating a distraction.
Yeah, he's costing himself $50,000 a day that he's not out there. But to go back to Brandon Ayuk real briefly, Michael, I know that it's 2024 and things are handled differently in this day of age with technology and social media. But the issue that I've had with the Ayuk situation is how much he just continues to bring attention to himself, that if I was John Lynch or if I was in the general manager chair, I feel like he's continuing to do things that make him less appealing to me as a player. Like, yes, we know the talent. Yes, Brandon, we like you. We want you on this team. But you're just showing us consistently that you maybe don't want to be here.
I agree. It's like, is this about you or is this about us? What is this about? Look, you have a contract, and it's a good contract. Look, Justin Jefferson had a contract, and he did what he had to do. He played, and he got paid a huge ton of money. So, like, I don't think you have to worry about it. Look, if you're as good as you think you are, you're going to get paid. And I think ultimately that's the conversation that has to be had. You know, sometimes I think we just give away some of the leverage that the collective bargaining agreement, the owners specifically did not want holdouts. That's why it is so hard on the holdouts. They got that negotiated in, and now these teams are just giving it back away. It makes no sense.
Okay, so those two players not practicing right now. In addition, as we wait to find out what's going to happen with those contracts, we did find out a couple restructures yesterday. Browns wide receiver Amari Cooper agreed to a restructured deal to guarantee his $20 million salary and give him a $5 million raise. And we also saw reports Matthew Stafford is reporting to Rams camp with a restructured deal pending for him.
Yeah, we felt like Cooper was complaining all offseason about his contract. He had 1 year left at $20 million. Now, I don't know how much of the $5 million is going to be guaranteed or if it's in base salary or if it's in incentives. My understanding, it's in incentives.
Okay.
Stafford was complaining the whole offseason. He wanted a new deal. We talked about it. We thought he would be one of the guys who got a new deal, and he was. He was the guy who got the first new deal. So hats off to him because he wasn't going to come in unless they adjusted his contract. Now, what they did will be interesting because if you look at Stafford, he has not been the same player that he was the year he won the Super Bowl. He was better last year than he was the year before. But still, I think what's going to happen is he has probably a year left, maybe two. Yeah. And I think ultimately this contract will be reflective of that.
Do you think that they're a team that can go over that 8.5 win total? Obviously, a 10-win season last year, despite the expectations being pretty low for that group. They had a 5-win season the year prior, thought it was going to continue that rebuild. They make the playoffs and went toe-to-toe with the Lions in that first-round game. What are your expectations for the Rams overall this season?
Well, I mean, look, I think they have a good team. I don't know if they have a team that can withstand many injuries, but who can, right? Most specifically, quarterback. And you're always worried about Stafford's health. He's a tough guy, plays hurt, but that elbow's always been a concern for you. The Rams didn't think that was going to be he was going to stay healthy because when they were nervous about guaranteeing him his money. So for me, you know, they're not like the Ifers because they can stay healthy. I think they'll run the football more effectively. I think Blake Corum with Williams gives them a really good run, 1-2 punch run on the football. You know, defensively is the question. Losing Aaron Donald, what does that mean? The two young players on their defensive front got 17 sacks last year combined, 33 quarterback pressures. They were very effective, but they couldn't make any plays on the football. They really didn't cover very well. And without Donald, are they going to be able to do that in the back end? It'll be interesting to see how they play, how they handle that.
Even money odds for them to make the postseason this year, -120 to miss, a +330 shot in the division. Of course, the San Francisco 49ers, nearly $3 to win the division. But, Michael, when it comes to quarterbacks, there are still a couple guys trying to get deals done from that standpoint as well. Jordan Love, we keep on hearing everything in Green Bay is getting close. The camp for Tua Tagovailoa, relatively quiet. We're not necessarily sure what the offer has been to him and what range he's going to be in. We heard from Adam Schefter. He thinks Jordan Love by the end of the week could be the highest paid quarterback in NFL history, but Tua likely not going to meet that threshold no matter how hard he and his agent are trying.
Yeah, no question. And I think to me, this isn't about them not liking Tua. They do. This is about some of the worries that come with Tua. Not a big man. Has concussions. Could he get it? If he gets another concussion, is he going to stop playing? The language in those contracts are always difficult. especially if you try to block out, if he gets a concussion, does he have to pay us back? If he retires, how does that work? He can't pass a physical. There's some serious dollars that you have to figure out, and it's your job for the team to make sure that you're put in position to handle those things and make sure you don't have the liability if something bad happens, which in all cases in business, sometimes it does happen, unfortunately. I do think they want to get it done. I mean, the difference between Love and Tua is the Packers love Tua. The Packers love Love. And Miami likes Tua. They understand the limitations. I think Green Bay doesn't see limitations with Love. I think they're more than willing to guarantee as much as they have to get him under a long-term contract.
How good of a team guy and leader must he be that the Packers believe in him so much based on what they've seen on the field and behind the scenes for them to want to invest that much money on him after 1 year on-field sample size? Like, I feel he's got to be like the greatest guy in the world behind the scenes for them to want to commit this much to him this fast.
I think that's a great question, but I think they answer that this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. They drafted him. They thought he was good, and those 8 games came through. It's no different than the Giants. The first winning season Daniel Jones had in his career, he didn't improve any of his numbers. They just won 9 games. He didn't play any better than he did before, but they couldn't wait to give him $40 million. Sometimes our egos get in the way of our decisions, and I think certainly that could be the case here because they're going to be exposed, Stormy. They're going to be exposed to huge.
Oh, no, I was just saying, everyone thought Brian Daboll fixed Daniel Jones. Not so fast. We're going to hit the break. When we come back, more general manager talk as Randy Mueller joins the conversation. You won't want to miss it.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here's your host, Stormy Buonantony, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
The VSiN NFL betting guide is out now, and our all-new college football betting guide drops next week, August 1st. Only VSiN Pro subscribers get all the tools to prep for the college and pro seasons. Our experts providing profiles for each and every team with advanced stats, trends, and power ratings, plus, of course, best bets on futures and season win totals. Sign up before the end of July and receive both guides and full VSiN Pro access to our daily pro picks, 24/7 video, and exclusive data like our betting splits all the way through the Super Bowl for an early bird discount price of just $175. The football special discount price expires July 31st, so don't wait. Head over to vsin.com/subscribe to sign up today. That's vsin.com/subscribe. Okay, you know how when you're picking up a rental car at National and there's an Emerald Club and then there's the executive cars? Well, we're headed to the executive lane here on the Lombardi Line. Former NFL executive Michael Lombardi, alongside now as we welcome in former NFL general manager Randy Mueller as well on the Progressive Guest Line. God, that was such a bad segue. Forgive me, guys. I'm fired. Former NFL GM with the Dolphins and Saints, an executive of the year winner, now doing great work with The Athletic. Randy, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. It's good to be back with you guys. Seeing Mike always brings a smile to my face. I can't figure out why, but I love it.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate it. It's great to have you. What's your view on this? I mean, the collective bargaining agreement has given executives the tools to prevent holdouts, and yet they just acquiesce to let players hold in. I mean, how would you – am I old school with thinking, like, I don't want them in the building if you're not going to practice?
You know, I'm with you, and I said this when it first started 3 or 4 years ago. The fact that we're allowing this to happen now is really nobody's fault but our own. I think that the couple things that transpire just from an emotional standpoint, I think the team loses leverage by having the player there. He's there with his friends. He's in and out of practice. There's no urgency for really anything to happen because everybody's okay. It's kind of like society, right? Everybody's okay with everything now, so we don't want any rules. And that's really what we've done. We may have collectively bargained for this, but it's like saying we're going to allow this, and each player sets precedent. Each team, sets precedent now as if they will allow these hold-ins. I'm with you. I think I'd have a hard time having to deal with these hold-ins where they just go through every day like nothing's wrong, except they're not practicing.
So meanwhile, I was actually going to ask, why don't more players just do that then? Because you have Brandon Ayuk, who not having to be fined. He's on site with everybody hanging out. But CeeDee Lamb's risking $50,000 a day not to be there. If I'm CeeDee, I'm like, I'll at least show up so I'm not getting fined.
Yeah, I totally agree. We're laughing at Marshawn Lynch. He was way before his time. He just said, I'm here because I don't want to get fined. And that's the theory now with all these guys with the hold-ins. It's a struggle. And I think Mike hit it on the head. That the George Youngs of the world, Mike, would roll over in their grave if they heard the rules the way they are and how teams acquiesce to this type of negotiating now.
No question. Maybe Jerry told CeeDee Lamb's agent, or Steven did that. If you come, you're practicing. If you don't come, you're not practicing. Yeah. You're getting fined. I mean, maybe they won't tolerate, and that's why the kid's staying away. What do you make of what's going on in Dallas, Randy, in terms of Dak sitting there with $50 million? His paragraph 5 is enormous, and Jerry's done nothing to touch it in terms of trying to get more cap room and give himself more cap space. What do you have a sense? What's your GM meter reading on? Do you think they're going to redo Dak's deal, or do you think they really think Trey Lance could be the answer?
You know, the thing that first came to my mind, Mike, when this whole situation came up, and if you remember, Jerry said, hey, we've talked to Dak. We are on the same page. We know what the plan is. I'm thinking, do they have a deal done in the drawer already? Which we know can't happen, but I'm just saying it gave me a series to just twist my head a little bit and say, what is going on here? Because as we know, Dak holds all the cards. I don't think there's been a player in the history of the league that has more leverage than what Dak Prescott has right now. And so I'm not sure where it stands. It's one of those things where he's going to have a blank check in front of him. He doesn't have to sign even the blank check until somebody puts 2 blank checks in front of him. Without a tag, without a no trade clause, he's got all the leverage. So I don't know. I have heard a little bit through the grapevine that maybe there is some talk going on. My only thinking with regard to that is maybe they want to get him done so that then they can proceed to CD and Micah Parsons. But Dak being the first pillar to fall, and Dak's such a team guy, he's going to be there. Plus, he's already got his bag of money once. So it's not like he's looking to break it completely. He's been paid well the last 5 years. So it's a struggle. When you consider everything there, it's almost like a what if situation like we are having New York with the Jets, in that everything has to go right. The coach is on a 1-year deal. The quarterback's on a 1-year deal. The best receiver has a deal, but we're allowing him to hold out. So there's just all kinds of what ifs with regard to the Cowboys. And I don't see how it makes them better, especially if they hit some rocky times early in the season.
Because you mentioned the Jets, I feel like it's only natural to go down the Hassan Reddick road there with the fact that he is holding out. And this is a team that Michael and I have talked about, felt like they had a deal in principle with Hassan Reddick before they made the trade. Obviously, that has not panned out the way that they anticipated it going. How important is it for the Jets to figure things out with Hassan Reddick?
Well, they've got so many things that are in limbo there that it's hard to have a priority because the list is long, right? The priority list keeps changing. But yeah, I think they made the commitment to give a 3rd-round pick that might be a 2 to get Reddick from the Eagles. Now, whether they got played or not in the deal, people can argue that. But the fact is they have him. They need to probably sign the guy some way, whether it's a 1-year bridge deal, whether it's a 2-year bridge deal with some fully guaranteed money. They're going to have to ante up to get him because I think it's clear that Hassan Reddick's willing to sit it out. Whether that's smart or not, a whole nother story. But I think if they could check a few boxes here and get rid of some doubts, it would help them going forward for sure.
Yeah, do you have faith that this offensive line and Mike Williams can stay healthy? I mean, they've got a lot of ifs asked for their team. Mike Williams' health. We've got, the left tackle, Tyron Smith's health. I mean, can they, and Morgan Moses, do you think this can all come through health-wise?
I think it's not to mention a 40-year-old Achilles playing up to the normal speed, right? I mean, nothing's ridden more on a 40-year Achilles in the history of the league. So I think it's going to be hard, Mark. Mike, I really do. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid that all of these things can happen because they need a lot of things to come through for them. And I think it's a little bit of a prayer for me at this point. Plus, these other teams that they play, we don't get to play East Carolina. We don't get to play some of the lower level teams. They're battling every week. So through attrition alone, they're going to have some injuries. And they're banking on some older guys who haven't been healthy. I think it's an uphill struggle for the Jets. I really do.
Randy Mueller, former NFL GM, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Okay, I want you to tap into the memory bank if you can with us, back to a training camp of the past. Any fun memories or stories that really stand out to you?
Well, I love training camp. I don't know how Mike feels, and I loved it when we went away as a team. I was spent 20 years with the Seahawks, and we would go across the state to Cheney. Half of those years, maybe more. I loved it when our team could get away because the distractions went with it. We could focus on football all the time. When we go to Eastern Washington with the Seahawks, we knew we'd get good weather the whole time. So the distractions were gone. I loved it. And then when I was in New Orleans, we went crazy enough to Thibodaux, which is an hour south of New Orleans. And we had probably the best work environment that I've ever been a part of in pro football. So I love the training camp. The stories happen. They're a lot of fun, but it builds camaraderie. It builds togetherness when you're away from really your normal grounds. That's been my experience. And so I liked it. I think we had a lot more at stake back then because we could actually practice, right? Yeah. We could practice twice a day in pads. We can't do that anymore. It's kind of like Club Med nowadays compared to what we used to have, right, Mike?
Oh, I was in Rockland with the 49ers. I mean, Joe Montana was sleeping in a college dorm with Dwight Clark. I mean, there was 2 to a room, you know? Yep. I mean, it was, and we would practice for 3 hours out there on the practice. I mean, it was long. It was grueling. And then in the afternoon, we had a giant pool, and Montana and everybody, they played pool basketball. You know, and it was fun, and everybody and you're right, everybody knew each other, and you bonded as a team. Everybody knew your name. Even when you had to go cut players, they were, you know, as I'm sure you did when you started, you know, they were really good about it, and they handled it. But, going to Seattle, am I wrong to think they're going to be vastly improved with Mike Macdonald helping their defense?
Oh, I definitely think they're improved. I think they really kind of underachieved. That's just my opinion in the last couple of years. I thought they were better than they showed. And to Pete's credit, he always would find a way, Mike, to fix the defense. They seemed like they started slow every year, and come around week 8 or 9, he would be in the middle of the defense, and they got better. I think they're going to start better. And I think what they've done is they've gotten some players now that actually fit in the scheme that they're going to run. And that's always been a little bit of a struggle, I think, with Seattle the last few years, is they've acquired some talent, but they haven't built a team. And I think Macdonald will give them a little more of a better fit for the personnel that they have and a more defined fit, if that makes any sense.
Randy, excellent insight as always. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks, great seeing you, man. Keep in touch. Thank you, Randy.
Randy Mueller, everybody. Check out all of the great work over at The Athletic. Win total for the Seattle Seahawks this year in year 1 of Mike Macdonald setting at 7.5. Keep it in the division. 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan could not believe this NFL coach was left without a job. He offered him one. It was declined. We'll talk about that and more with a GM translator coming up next.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here's your host, Stormy Buonantony on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you like watching and listening to VSiN, you'll love all of our betting tools and content at VSiN.com. We got best bets each and every day from all of our show hosts, guests, and experts. Updated betting splits, exclusive articles, including regular columns from our own Michael Lombardi, odds by state, betting tools, betting guides, and so much more. The NFL betting guide out now, and the college football betting guide coming out next Thursday. Get ready. Head to VSiN.com today. Alongside Michael Lombardi, Stormy Buonantony with you, and with all of the GM love today, with Randy Mueller joining the program, Michael, we're going to continue our GM translator conversation. There's a few interesting sound bites that have come out from various coaches, players, that I want you to read between the lines of. This first one, actually, not so much reading between the lines, but I think it's awesome, considering Bill Belichick's not even on the top 3 in Atlanta. He did at least have one job offer to be back on an NFL sideline, we learned. Kyle Shanahan on the TK Show podcast, hosted by The Athletic's Tim Kawakami, said on an episode posted Monday he offered Bill Belichick a spot on the 49ers staff. Take a listen.
Speaking of coaching, I know how much respect you have for Belichick and how important he's been to you. Did you talk to him at all about an informal or even a formal role with this team this year?
I did. I threw it out to him he loves football so much that you never know what he would. I mean, I can't believe that he's not a head coach of a team right now. I know what I would do if I was an owner, so that shocks me. And the last thing you want to do is insult someone like Bill Belichick. But I know he just loves ball in the simplest form. So I threw it all out to him, like whatever he'd want to do.
DC?
Yeah, I was like, would you be interested? And he was very nice and appreciative, but he politely turned me down.
Michael, I love that, though. Good on Kyle Shanahan. Worst he can say is no, right? Like, what if he would have said yes? My dreams all would have been made. Anyways, go on. What do you have to say, Michael?
So today I was having a conversation with the general manager in the National Football League, and we were talking about a lot of things that were going on, specifically the Hard Knocks. And the guy said, it's interesting. They're showing us this, but what aren't they showing us? That's got to be really revealing, correct? So, and we got into it, and I said to this person, isn't it amazing that Belichick isn't working? And he said to me, yeah, it's hard to believe that the greatest coach of all time isn't in the league when you watch this stuff. And I said, and this was the exact quote I said to him, and I had no idea that this happened with Kyle today with Tim, as I said, ask Kyle Shanahan, ask Andy Reid, ask Mike Tomlin, who they wouldn't want for jobs in their division, and I'm sure the answer is going to be Belichick. But yet the Atlanta Falcons, he didn't finish in the top 3 in their list, and they publicized it. Yeah. So to me, I think this is like, are we sure our coaches – like if you have a coach watching the Giants – I like Brian Daboll, but watching him, legs up, asking – like, are we sure we have the best coach for our team – when the greatest coach of all time is sitting out there? I think there's a lot of pressure on you.
It is funny you say that. I noticed that too. It's like every scene that Brian Daboll is in, his feet are kicked up on a table, like every single one. But like obviously,
he's in a pool smoking a cigar. Like life is good. Like I don't think that's I don't think that's the image you want to project. I think you want to be. George Allen used to say, get to work early, and, people think you're a grinder. I think you want to be a grinder, Like, I know this is an entertainment show, but you are also packaging your who you are, and your feet up, you're not like, there's no authority. The one thing when you watch Hard Knocks, there's an absence of leadership. There's no leadership.
Body language aside, I think just the Bill Belichick not having a job of it all is still fascinating. And I'm excited to see him on TV and hear some of his insight on the game. And I think that you and I and most people agree that we're going to see him back on a sideline fairly soon in the National Football League, because every year is a cycle of jobs that end up opening up. Now, his former team, the New England Patriots, may have taken North Carolina's Drake May at number 3 overall in the draft, but new head coach Gerard Mayo isn't hiding his feelings about Jacoby Brissett right now. Here's Mayo.
Coming out of the spring, I don't think there's any doubt Jacoby is the starting quarterback at this point in time. I mean, we can look at these other quarterbacks on the roster. At the same time, like it's about competition. And so when we get out on the field this summer with the pads on, we'll see how it all plays out. But, coming out of the spring, I think it's clear that Jacoby is the most pro-ready guy we have. The goal for Drake is just to get better each and every day. And look, it's not a straight line up to the top. There will be ups and downs. But if you look left to right, you just hope that if he started here, he's here. And once again, if he comes out here and he takes full advantage and lights it up, like he could be the day one quarterback. But like I said, coming out of the spring, I think it's Jacoby.
What was that odd to go, Jacoby Brissett's our clear starter, but hey, Drake could still be the day one guy? Like I found that an odd statement for him on Drake May to follow up on what he had already said about Brissett.
Well, I think he's got to square away his offensive line before you could really put a rookie quarterback behind it. It's a mess. The offensive line is a mess. They signed Michael Onwenu to be the starting right tackle. They forgot that he had a weight problem and he gained ridiculous amounts of weight, and so they had to put him back in a guard now. And Calvin Anderson's going to be the starting right tackle for right now. Left tackle, still not sure who they are. So the question marks remain around the tackle position are really going to create some problems for whomever starts their quarterback. And Brissett will get rid of the football quicker than any young quarterback like Drake May, who's not sure what he's seeing. But let's make no mistake about this Patriot team. Last year, they scored 14 touchdowns in the receiving game. 14 passing touchdowns. 13 were by running backs and tight ends. 1 was by a receiver. They're going to have to find a way to make explosive plays.
Win total for the New England Patriots, just 4.5 under new head coach Gerard Mayo. Now, Caleb Williams of this entire rookie class is the only one who's actually been named the starter so far, which oddly enough includes Washington Commanders' new quarterback, Jaden Daniels. These coaches are playing it as TBD with Daniels. Here's Dan Quinn and GM Adam Peters in Washington.
It's not a secret, but it is a journey and a process. And so as we're going, when he's ready, we'll know. And when he's ready, he'll also know. Through practices, through scrimmages and preseason games all the way down, that's where the journey will take us. And then I'm not trying to hold back the info, but when we know, we'll say it.
In my experience with young quarterbacks, too, like DQ said, it's not one size fits all. And I think everybody can see when that's happening, when they're ready, that the team knows, the coaches know. So you don't want to fast track it. You don't want to slow it down. You just want to let it happen naturally.
They did take him number 2 overall, and the rest of the quarterback room is Marcus Mariota, Jeff Driscoll, and Sam Hartman. So take me through the GM translation on that one.
Well, nobody asked the question, like, how can you sit here and say he's not going to be a starter when Mariota can't play 3 games without getting hurt? Like, seriously. Yeah. Like, of course, if you would have thought he's not the starter, you would have signed a more dependable, reliable backup. Marcus Mariota certainly was the first pick overall in the draft. He has talent, but he's not been able to stay healthy or durable, and make the continuing plays. So to me, this is just run around in a circle. And what is Adam Peters doing up there? It's training camp. There's no time for the GM to. But see, I think that's the indication of what Washington is. They want the GM to run the team. They want the GM to be a focal part of the team, and I'm just not sure that's the right way to go about running teams.
Okay, we got another fun one I want to make sure that we get to here. Tyreek Hill wants a new Dolphins contract, but he has an important trade message for his agent as well. Here's Tyreek.
Obviously, I let Drew and, the team handle that situation, and the only thing I told Drew was, like, do not get me traded, bro. Last time you did this, you got me traded. So that's been my only thing to him. I'm like, if I want to stay here in Miami, man, because obviously this is where family is now. Everybody loves it here. Family loves it. Wife loves it. Kids love it. So obviously I love it. Love playing for Coach. And the team, my teammates are awesome. So I wouldn't want to leave, man.
Talking about his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, of course. Don't get me traded, bro.
And he's got a lot of family, too, Stormy. Like, I don't know what family he was talking, but there's a lot of family there that can't leave. I mean, let's face it.
You're giving Phillip Rivers a big run for his money, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, but he's also got, Phillip was staying in one spot. He's all over. I mean, so this is a little bit more of a challenge for him. He better not leave.
You're not lying. You're not lying. But are you? I'm not surprised to hear that, though, at least from Tyreek, that he wants to stay. He's happy. He is treated well. Tua gets him the ball every chance he gets. He's in a good situation. Just wants a little more bang for his buck now that some other wide receivers are getting deals.
No question. I mean, look, he's got to get it, and I obviously Drew knows. And look, let's face it, he doesn't have to worry about them not them trading him because they need him more than he needs them. I mean, he can go anywhere he wants. He's going to make plays. People are scared of the Miami offense because of a man named Tyreek Hill and his speed and his explosiveness to take the game over.
30 years old, 10 children. Man, he's doing work. Okay, we're going to hit the break. When we come back, special edition of Why Not Wednesday. We got some serious long shots, but are they good enough to make Michael turn his head and say, why not? We will get into it in a moment as we wrap things up on the Lombardi Line.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Buonantony, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
July is ending with a bang. UFC 304 has not just one, but 2 titles on the line. Get your own crown by jumping in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code VSiN. That's VSIN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. We are wrapping things up as we welcome you back here to the Lombardi Line. Michael Lombardi and Stormy Buonantony with you. I know.
What a quick show, Stormy.
That's what happens when we've got training camp underway and players to talk about and things to yell about.
I know. It's so good. I mean, did you see? I just saw on Twitter. We can react to everything. This is the best part about what we're doing now. That Brandon Ayuk was called off the field.
Well, maybe that goes to your point.
He walked off the field.
That goes to your point, though, of saying, hey, these hold-ins can be a distraction at times. If you're not going to be out here, man, get out of here. Go inside.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll know more about that as time comes on. But I thought it was interesting. And naturally with all the cameras and all the stuff that we have now available to us, the instant reactions, people can. You can see a lot more what's going on at training camp. Back in the day, you barely could read a newspaper from an opponent's city. You had no idea. Everything was hidden. Today, you just go on Twitter and everything's out there for you to watch.
Yep, we've got insiders and beat reporters out there at every training camp. So tomorrow and throughout the coming weeks, we're going to have tons of video coming out from these practices, press conferences, things that people are hearing. It's a great time with the NFL officially back in our lives. It's so exciting. And with that, there's some betting opportunities as well. We had a really nice conversation with Connor Allen of 4for4 Sports a little bit earlier today, an NFL betting analyst who has broken down season-long player props over the course of the last handful of years and found some trends, which leads us to our pro tip of the day. And you can find our VSiN pro tips each and every day available at vsin.com, searchable by sport and by show. So if you're looking for stuff specifically from us, search the Lombardi Line. You can find it right there. But he says that, there are so many more ways for a season-long player prop to go under than it is to go over. And if you're making a bet in this market, you should target some of those unders first. According to his research, for the 3rd consecutive year, if you just bet, and we don't recommend this, but if you bet every under on the highest number available in the season-long player prop market, Michael, you would have won over 60% of the time.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, look, there's so much that can go wrong, right? It's to me, it's a great commentary. This betting tip is a great commentary on when I use the term you have to avoid losing before you can win. Most games are lost, not won. And I think in this betting world, to get the over, you've got to achieve, stay healthy, get the ball, those things. Whereas the under is a lot easier to achieve because not everything goes right all the time because that ball isn't exactly easy to predict where it could go.
Connor also, by the way, laid out the top 3 highest hit rates on unders. Passing yard unders, all at 64% or higher. The second highest hit rate over the last 3 years, receiving touchdown unders at 66%. And the 3rd highest running back rushing touchdown unders, also at 64%. Okay, great stuff. Again, remember all of those VSiN pro tips available each and every day at vsin.com. But it's time to close things out the only way we know how on a Wednesday. Time for Why Not Wednesday.
Question. Maybe a stupid one, but I'm just spitballing here.
Can it make you say why not?
That wasn't a stupid question.
It's time for Why Not Wednesday.
I mean, why not?
You know when they say it's so crazy it just might work?
It's so crazy it just might work. We've got a handful of long shot props. I'm going to throw Michael's way and see if it might just make you want to tilt your head and say, why not? We're going to start out there in San Francisco with the 49ers. We know this offense loves to run the ball, but Brock Purdy was also top 3 in NFL passing touchdowns last year, Michael. Could you say why not to the 49ers having 1 or more passing touchdown in every regular season game this season? 8-1 is the payout.
Oh, why not on that? Ooh. Hell yeah. I mean, look, he gets the ball. This whole Jordan Love thing, that he's getting all this love, which he certainly is a good player, but Purdy is, Purdy is sensational. And I think when you really, and I put this I put this on my column this week, when you break down the Niners, I mean, when they don't turn the ball over, they're as good as any team. They're the best team in the league. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, and ball security is everything for them. In 9 games, they didn't commit a turnover. They were 9-0. In the 3 games they committed 3 or more, they were 0-3. In 2 games with 2 or more or 1 turnover, they were 4-3. So when they protect the football, and Purdy typically does, they win.
Well, and that's a great point, Michael, because Purdy only did not have a passing touchdown in 2 games last year. One of them was that game on Christmas Day where he had 4 interceptions uncharacteristically against the Ravens. So when he is dialed, which is the majority of the time, he is ultimately getting in the end zone. Let's go to another team in the NFC. CeeDee Lamb, Michael. He is coming off a career season, 1,749 yards, 12 touchdowns, but he's holding out at training camp right now. Once he gets back on the field, could you say why not to him going 1,750 plus receiving yards in the regular season at 4-1?
No, I can't, because I think when you hold out like this, I don't think this team's connected. I don't think this team's together. And I think it's a problem, and I think it does reflect. There's too many guys wondering when is it going to happen. And when there's that many wins, it's a problem.
And we just need to get somebody's contract done in Dallas. What is happening? Jarek, come on. Let's go out to Los Angeles, by the way, where Matthew Stafford, he is in the process of finalizing a restructured deal at 36 years old. Could you say why not? It only has to happen once. But to Stafford having 500-plus yards in a game. Just once. It's 10-1. Could it happen?
No, because here's why. I'm going to tell you why it won't happen.
All right.
Because when you really break down this, look, I got the stat right here for you. I'm going to enter this in the court of stormy law here. Okay. Let me just get to it right now. Here are the Rams, okay? The Rams, when they scored 21 or less points in 7 games, they were 2-5. And when they don't run the ball for at least 110 yards, they will lose. And I think, to me, that's the biggest question mark. They have to have balance in their run game. They cannot just be a 50-pass game. And so I think, to me, they play their best when they have balance. That's why he won't throw for 500 yards.
Okay, that's all fair points. Another player I do want to ask you, though, about the 500-plus yards is Tua Tagovailoa. Now, we saw the way that he was able to light up bad teams. They had that 70-point game against the Broncos at one point last season. He's got his marquee weapons, TYREEK Hill, Jalen Waddle, even their running backs, solid in the passing game. 8-1 for him to have a 500-plus yard passing game. Could you say why not to Tua?
Yeah, I could. I mean, because look, 500 yards, we know that he's got great receivers. Into a couple big plays here, a couple big plays there, and the next thing you know, it's the old, the saying, Dirksen said, a million here, a million there. Before long, we're spending real money, a couple 100 yards passing to TYREEK Hill. The next thing you know, you're at 500.
Speaking of TYREEK Hill, last year we all remember him making the proclamation that he thought he could be the first 2,000-yard receiver in the National Football League. Could you say why not to him making it happen in 2024-25? 11-1 is the number.
I like this one. I think it can happen if he stays healthy. And again, like we learned, some of these things are avoidable because of injuries. But yes, he was on pace to get this 2,000 yards and he got injured, and unfortunately that affected him. But I would say that he has a great opportunity to do that, assuming he can play at all 17 games.
And to go back to your earlier point last segment, if he wants to hit those incentives, it's going to be important for him to pay for all them kids. Last one here while we can. Malik Neighbors.
You said that. I didn't, Stormy. And I got yelled at for bringing all that up. But I mean,
don't know what you're talking
I don't
about.
know how I have 5 grandchildren. And now I got 3 in the house. I say their names wrong all the time because I call Dominic Mikey. I call him because he looks like his father. I call him Mick. It's like I'm all messed up. I don't know how Tyreek he must study the names. He must, okay. I got to get all these names
Studying his
down.
kid's name like the playbook. One more here real quickly. Malik Neighbors to have 200-plus receiving yards in any regular season game via Hard Knocks.
No,
all the coaches seem really high on him. You don't think so? No?
No. I mean, who's throwing him the ball? You, me? Who's Daniel Jones? I mean, he can't. Daniel Jones never averaged over 7 yards per attempt in his career. Are you kidding me? He's not throwing him the ball. And here's the thing I think
it's
you got to really
What if it's Drew Lock? What if it's Drew Lock?
I still don't. I mean, here's what you have to understand, too, about this situation in New York. People are going to double Neighbors immediately. They're going to say to Daniel Jones, go somewhere else, see if somebody else can beat us. That's why Barkley with Neighbors, now you got something. But I'm not worried about Motor Singletary. Let him have the ball 100 times if he wants it. Who is he going to do? What are they going to do? He's not going to beat me.
Yeah, I'm with you there on Saquon. I mean, you can't help but keep on going back to that moment when Joe Schoen looks at his computer, sees he's getting an extra $25, $30 million in the cap, and says, you know what, I still don't want to spend that on my star running back, who is our entire offense. We're better off. We're fine.
Yeah.
What are you
all
gonna
good.
do?
Don't worry about it, Storm. We got it. But what we have is you tomorrow, and we got storm front coming tomorrow. So get ready for the weather.
No doubt about it. You're the best, Michael. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We are a network of sports betting and